McCarthy. With over 50 years of personal development learning coupled with 25 years of experience as an educator, Jill brings a wealth of knowledge to the table. Her passion for encouraging women is truly inspiring, evident in her extensive work that includes writing leading women's retreats since 1997 and the creation of an online community through her Women's Empowerment Facebook group and podcast, The Greeky Grandma with an Encouraging Nudge. So, Jill's unique blend of NLP, aesthetic approaches, and spiritual wisdom form a powerful combination, aiding women in healing deep emotional wounds and propelling them toward their dreams. So please join me in welcoming the extraordinary Jill McCarthy to the stage. So welcome to the stage, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. That was a nice welcome. Um, Today, I'm going to give a talk on the power of encouragement, and I'm going to do this with a video. Um, Hold on one second. I'd like to share my screen with you, and the screen has an interview form of this conversation.
Incredible things. So, Jill, would you like to share with us? Let's talk the power of encouragement.
Well, my story started out as somebody with really, really low self esteem. Even as I began to understand what self esteem was about, I felt like a paper bag that somebody cut the bottom out. And everything that I tried just went right through the bottom. It's like nothing stuck. And that's a hard place to be. I guess we're all there at one extent or another, but mine just seemed kind of huge. And then I went on, and what happened after that is maybe somebody gave me a birthday card and they took the time to write a little extra note. Well, that started filling that little bit of empty space, that huge cavern of empty space in me. And then somebody else would send an email. So I'd print that off and I'd put it in a box. And then we kept going on and on and on. And finally, about 15 years ago, I was at a church one Saturday and they were giving a gifts and talent survey. We've heard several people talk about gifts and talents. So I spent the Saturday morning taking the survey to find my top three gifts. And among the top three gifts was the gift of exhortation. That's a fancy word we don't use a lot these days. Exhortation means that you're compelled to speak, and usually what you're saying is very compelling. But people who take gifts and talent service all the time, they like to call that the gift of encouragement. And it's taken me a long time to own that gift, but I'm stepping up to the plate now. And now I write, I'm an encourager. That's what I do. And we also have talked how we're each made differently with different skills and talents. I love to take all those little questionnaires that say you might be this or this or this or this, and that they all come together to help me do that gift of encouragement. I'd like to share one story about a college friend who encouraged me. Her name was Cheryl, and the last 2 years of college, I commuted from home, and Cheryl lived on campus, and the college church youth group would meet on certain nights of the week, and they would run around the campus. Now, if anybody knows the campus of Oswego, New York, the campus goes across road, and you'd have to go way up around all the sports field, way around all of the business buildings, and come back to where we started. And we were all trying to see if we could do the whole trip once without having to stop and take a breather. While we were going along, Cheryl and I, and Cheryl hadn't stopped yet, and she was a little bit ahead of me, and she saw I was slowing down, and I just couldn't make it any further without catching my breath. And I motioned to her, keep going, you're doing great. You haven't stopped yet. And she said, no, two are better than one. And I'm going to wait for you till you catch up with me. And we're going to go the rest of the way together. And my head just kind of shook, said, why'd you give up your long run without stopping? And she just says, but it's more important that we're together and that we encourage each other. And I never had somebody do something like that for me. Cheryl took the time to write a letter telling different traits that she saw in me. It took her a long time to write it. When she did, I took that letter and I folded it up and I put it in the back of my wallet. So until it was creased so deep from opening and closing, somebody took the time to tell me that I was valuable, that I was worthwhile. And that meant the world to me. And now's my time to pass it forward.
Wow. There must be so many incredible stories because I know that you do retreats, I know that you do podcasts, and I know that when you're doing those, that is what you're doing. And I can understand how it would be an interesting gift to claim. Do you know what I mean? Because it comes natural to you. And I believe that sometimes we don't see our natural gifts as valuable because it comes so easy to us. I mean, kind of like how Rebecca was sharing earlier, like, gee, I wish I could monetize my ability to connect because she just does it so freely and so easily. Yet it's not that easy for other people to do that. And so for you to claim your ability as an encouragement person, encouraging coach, I could see how that would be difficult because one, you don't, that's not usually on the job board when you go to find a job, right?
Right.
And two, it's such an easy gift for you. But the other thing is, how do you monetize? How do you turn your best gift into a business? Can you talk about okay, so you recognized you had this beautiful gift. I know that there's people that are blown away by your ability of technology because you are a wise woman. So can you walk us through what it was like to go, okay, I'm going to own it. Now, what am I going to do with it? And what that was like?
Well, I just have been spending the last 3 months working with Jules Vitality. I was on a summit with her and to warm up to find out whether you were a good fit for and everything. We had a one-on-one talk. And I told her, I said, on my page, I do encouragement, I do inspiration, I do empowerment. But I looked at her in the eye and I said, how do you sell a pound of encouragement? And she said, that's the secret. It's like I quantified it for a second. And now that's the top line you'll get on my webpage is it is something. And I've out of that one little random comment came the idea of the encouragement sessions. And the first lady that signed up for one, she agreed to do it and all of that. And she could, for whatever reason, she couldn't do it for a week and a half. Just knowing that she had it scheduled gave her hope. This is a woman that I'd been on the side encouraging for about 4 years. But then she knew that when I finally put it out there, that's what she was ready for. And I was ready to give it to make it open for her. We had one session. She signed up for a second. She ended up in the hospital. But before I ever had the second session, she went from super depressed to now she's visiting her girlfriend in California, which was the best thing, the easiest thing on her list to do. And it's going to change her. And we spent 30 minutes together, and yet it made a difference.
Well, I think that you've nailed it. I think that to put a value, and I think all of us do this, right? That, we probably undervalue our impact, how our words impact. We know when someone says something unkind to us, how that can affect us. But sometimes I think because we are in continuum of, oh my gosh, I love your shirt today, or your podcast was so much fun to be on, we naturally say things that are of encouraging nature. to really package that and to really sit with somebody and go, okay, what's going on for you? What do you got on that? Obviously, you talked to her about what she had on her list, and you were able to encourage her to do something on that list, which what you said is going to change her, which reminds me of what Kathy talked about. Well, how she likes to create change agents, right? It's like you're actually, by the power of your encouragement, are really creating change. And yet you came from a place where self-esteem was falling through the bottom of the bag, right? At some point, you had to hold on and self encourage or self empower. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I'll tell you. I've spent 50 years studying personal development. You know, the people talk about Bob Proctor on here. I read them back in the original. They talk about neuro-linguistic programming. I taught myself how to do that off of cassette tape. I spent 30 years in therapy. I figured somewhere I must have learned how to do something. Throw in 25 years of education, teacher. Well, I've got the means to convey it to someone else. So even if I know it, some people know it but don't know how to share it. I already had that checked off the box. And, my faith is really important to me. I believe we're created for what we were made to do. I also believe that those desires in our heart, that God had something to do with putting them there. And my very first retreat was, we used a verse from Psalm 37, and it says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart." And those words, desires of your heart. Okay, so it doesn't sound like modern English, but that's what I use to explain whatever is really, really deep in your heart. Have you done it yet? Have you started for it yet? And like somebody, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name, but a few minutes ago, someone just said, time's running out. I got to do it now or I'm not going to have a turn. I have a women's group site, Women Encouraging Women is the name of it. Deb's joined it lately. And I post memes I see from wherever about the importance of today. Someone else talked about their husband was flatlined in the driveway. None of us know how many days we've got. And, maybe you wanted to be a dancer on the Rockettes and you're 78. Well, so what if you take tap dance lessons in a chair? Are you doing it? Are you doing what you're made to do? And Deb mentioned that I like technology, and I am the geeky grandma. If anybody takes time to know me very long, that's a real name. I build equipment because I like to. The first time I sat down at the keyboard, I waited 20 years from college to get in the keyboard, and I put my fingers down. My fingers knew what to do. I didn't tell them. They knew it. It was built into these fingers. These fingers that can't take a spoonful of food without dropping it can use the keyboard. And this mind that in my right brain or in my left brain, I'm both. So when I'm doing something on the computer, I'm doing the tech, which is the left, and the creative, which is the right. And when I'm doing them together, all of me can exist there. Yeah, geeky. I'm making fun of myself a little. I'm a little weird. Guess what? I'm embracing my weird. If that's who I am, that's who I am. Let me be as weird as I need to be. I'm me, and I'm choosing to accept me.
Hallelujah, sister. I mean, I think that's what this whole thing is about, right? In
Yeah.
desire to receive, in the dare to receive, in the there's a lot of women here that are putting receive and achieving together. There has been a lot of motivation about, there's been a lot of motivation and talk today about really that internal piece of inspiration and that keep goingness, and that when it's inside, and transparency. And I absolutely just, well, I mean, first of all, I adored you and I love going to your group because you know what, again, just like how we don't sometimes stop and recognize the words that people say and how it makes us feel. I don't go, oh, I was on a conversation with Sharon today and I came off and those words she said were encouraging, and I feel better. I mean, we don't acknowledge that happens in nanoseconds, right? But when someone can make a business, I think this should be inspiring to any of you out there that are wondering how to monetize your gift, or if you should monetize your gift, or that you've got something that you can't, that is not maybe, like I said, on the job board, that there is always a creative way to be able to get that out there, to be able to formulate it in a way that gives value to others, yet that you can receive from it. Is it not shocking? You guys put it in the chat. Like, is it not shocking the amount of interesting businesses and industries that have been built and created in this last chunk of time? Like really in this last chunk of time, there is businesses that have never been done before, never been done before, right? Never been said before, never been created before, titles that have never been, associated before. I think it's interesting, when you do your taxes and they're like, "What's your job?" You're like, you know, empowerment coach. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an encouraging coach. They're like, "What? I don't know what category to put you under."
Oh, it took me for a while. I don't, have joined like 500 groups, so I have some place to put down an advertisement or tell who I am. And it felt funny at first putting it down, but then I started owning it. And then I started thinking, well, how can I attract somebody to this? How can I look at it as if I were in the seat and needing it? I could say, "Are you in the middle of a job that you need some encouragement? Maybe you had a bad day and you just need a little bit. Or maybe it's a bad season of life where you spent the last 2 months going to 5 different funerals. During those times, you need a group or a tribe or a family to support you through the long run. Or when one's having a good day, help the one that's down. And the one that's down, when they come up, you can give it back. There's different ways that we need encouragement. I started it thinking it could be a sounding board. Sometimes we just need to hear our idea out loud. When we hear it, we might say it's terrific, or maybe they'd say, "Oh, I guess that doesn't sound quite like I thought it did," not rattling around in my head. There's different reasons. I've been on other summits before about using your voice. I think of a woman out there who maybe is married or connected with a narcissist and they've forgotten how to use their voice. Or maybe they were a scared little rabbit like me growing up and was labeled shy. Or was maybe they're a listener and have never really used it, and nobody knows they really can talk. Well, there's lots of different reasons what might bring somebody into a session, but I want to give it back. I have so many of those notes. They fill a men's workbook box of all the notes people have given me over the years. You said what you take in is what you got to give out. I've got all of this encouragement stuck in here and I can't wait to give it away.
All right. Well, there's a takeout order. So as we wrap up, Jill, as we wrap up, I know you're going to be putting your information, and I know that you have a podcast, and I know that you love having people on your show, and I know that you love being on people's shows. So that inspires you or motivates you. Have those conversations in the chat with Jill. You know what I loved out of everything that you said that I think is a really beautiful message is that things started to change for you when you started to own it.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, that's really a fantastic presentation and interview, Jill. So I can see you're a best international speaker, and also you're the turtle fly creations. So you're the and also the encouragement coach. So thank you so much that you are being a continuous speaker for our conferences. So looking forward the same for our future conferences as well. It's been a honor that you are being a speaker for our conference. Thank you so much, and so please join our next speaker session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Have a great day.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. So please join our next speaker, Dr. Margin.